I belong to a nonprofit gym called Rock Steady Boxing, where I box and exercise about 2 times a week. It helps me keep in shape despite my mild Parkinson's disease. Oh, don't worry, we only hit punching bags, not other people. At Rock Steady, we have corner men, corner women, and corner persons. Corner people are usually spouses or friends who are there to be in your corner of the boxing ring, to support you, to partner with you on exercises and boxing. Corner people are not charged any fees to participate in these workouts. They help to make workouts easier, better, and more fun. In boxing, it has been said that corner men are one of the most valuable allies and assets a boxer has in a fight. They're part general, part strategist, part physician, part psychologist, part nutritionist, 100% inspiration, and all respect. There are 3 major requirements of the corner: commitment, emotional connection with your boxer, and actually performing the tasks of the corner. The corner must be committed to boxing and his or her boxer. Corner has to want to do the work and job of cornering. It's a lot of work, and it's time consuming. The corner has to be emotionally and spiritually connected to his or her boxer. Corner has to want what is best for the boxer. They have to care for and believe in their boxer. In the end, though, it's the boxer who's the decision maker. It's the boxer's mind and body that enters the ring. The corner has to actually do and perform the tasks of a corner person. Skills like training, sparring, coaching. Since the job of a corner is to be supportive, almost anyone can be a corner if they're willing to commit to the job and do the work. You don't have to be a particular race, gender, sexual preference, nor ethnicity. You just have to do this work and actually go out and do it. There's several benefits to being a corner. Helps you keep in shape and stay sharp. You also have a unique and golden opportunity to help another person and have great impact on your boxer and his or her life. Being a good corner person provides an opportunity to live on in eternity by positively impacting your boxer, and your boxer pays forward your corner person support on to another boxer. Cornering is pay it forward immortality from one corner man to one boxer. Then that boxer becomes a corner person to another boxer, and the cycle continues. In life, sometimes you need to be the boxer or fighter, and sometimes you need to be the corner. We have all benefited from the corner people in our lives. Our task is to pay forward the support of our corners by serving as corner people for others. Corner people are one of those things in life that you cannot have too many of. Corner people in your life have included teachers, neighbors, mentors, bosses, coaches, scout leaders, friends, and family members. Corner people are people that took the time to care and help you. And most importantly, they are people that were willing to put your needs and interests first, even ahead of their own interests. Historic events have benefited from the work of corner people. These events include the first, second, and third reconstructions. It's not an exaggeration to say that social change does not happen without corner people. The first Reconstruction occurred in the South in the years immediately following the end of the Civil War. During this period of time, a unique and historic event happened. Black and white people actually viewed themselves as allies. Freed slaves and poor white farmers created a fusion coalition. By 1870, every Southern state was led by a progressive black and white coalition. In many states, the government was led by an African-American majority. State constitutions were rewritten throughout the South to provide for national citizenship, equal protection, the right to vote, the right to serve on juries, and the right to a public education. Unfortunately, the biracial coalition did not last, as Southern states enacted Jim Crow laws, creating separate public facilities based on race. Jim Crow was not a person, but actually a song. Jim Crow was a popular 19th century minstrel song that stereotyped African Americans. The term used to describe government-sanctioned racial oppression and segregation in the American South. Started in 1954. A second fusion coalition was built with the participation of all races, college students, Muslims, Catholics, and Christians. 1963, over 2,000 people marched on Washington, D.C., and witnessed Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s "I Have a Dream" speech. The administration to pass strong civil rights laws, credited with the passage of the Civil Rights Act of 1964 and the Voting Rights Act of 1965. A third Reconstruction is long overdue. June 18th, 2022, thousands of people came to Washington, D.C. to help launch this third Reconstruction, including myself and several people from my church, All Souls. As the long title of the Poor People's Campaign, a national call for moral revival. The evils of systemic racism, poverty, the war economy, ecological devastation, and the nation's distorted morality, starting from the bottom and moving up. We've seen a war on the poor rather than a war on poverty. March on Washington is difficult to put into words, particularly if you weren't there, but let me try. The initial feeling that I had was a feeling of historical importance, a return to August 1963, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., the dream and civil rights. The campaign begins where Martin Luther King Jr. left off. It is now time to actually live that dream. From the march is the diversity and solidarity of the coalition supporting this movement at both the state and national levels. This is over 250 labor and organizational partners, hundreds of faith partners, dozens of national religious bodies from all races, states, big cities, small towns, rural areas, is committed to lift up the poor of our nation. Me back to the term solidarity, which I say I haven't used nor thought about in probably a couple decades. The dictionary definition of solidarity is the fact or quality on the part of communities being perfectly united or at one in some respect, especially in interests, sympathies, or aspirations. Solidarity is based upon the same Latin root as solid. It is probably never more important than it is today, as the world faces many difficult challenges all simultaneously. I now think of solidarity. I envision Pete Seeger singing the labor anthem, Solidarity Forever, on a picket line. I also remember Solidarity, the Polish labor union, striking in the Gdansk shipyards and ultimately becoming an immovable force that struck down various communist governments in Europe in the 1980s. At Starbucks and dollar stores. Essential workers are the backbone of most of life's necessities: food, healthcare, and transportation. From the march, we learned that most of the essential workers are poor. It is time to compensate essential workers at a level that recognizes their essential nature. Universalist Association is both an endorser of and a faith partner with the campaign. It is based on the alignment of the campaign's goals, strategies, and tactics with our own. The campaign also offers the opportunity to strengthen multi-faith and partner relationships, deepen our faith, and create a transformative movement for justice. Since March 2020, UUA has appointed 8 UU leaders to serve as the liaisons to this campaign. Boxers that need corner men. There are a whole lot of hurting people who need the support of corner people. We need to support people of color. We can help low-wage workers seek better compensation and the right to union representation. Incarcerated people to return to their communities and families. Our national minimum wage could sure use a corner person. These are only a few of the people and issues that can benefit from good corner people. I have 2 role models from the civil rights era, Robert Kennedy and Bob Zellner. I admire them for numerous reasons, but one of the major reasons is that they were good corner people. Developed close ties to Indianapolis since he personally calmed the city and people of all colors on the night that Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. was killed. He spoke that night in Indianapolis at what is now called Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Park at 17th Street and College Avenue. For me, when I think of solidarity, corner persons, and allies, I aspire to be like Bobby Kennedy. After the assassination of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., Robert Kennedy was also killed. Kennedy, in eulogizing his brother and articulating one of the best descriptions of what makes a great corner man. Be idealized nor enlarged in death beyond what he was in life, to be remembered simply as a good and decent man who saw wrong and tried to right it, saw suffering and tried to heal it, saw war and tried to stop it. Him and who take him to his rest today, pray that what he was to us and what he wished for others will someday come to pass. As he said many times in many parts of this nation to those he touched and who sought to touch him, some men see things as they are and say, why? I dream things that never were and say, why not? Streaming services. Despite all those available shows and movies, I often have difficulty finding something to watch. Recently, I stumbled upon the feature film, Son of the South, Bob Zellner's life as an activist. The movie was produced by Barry Alexander Brown and Spike Lee. After watching the movie, I wanted to be a corner man like Bob Zellner. He is the ultimate ally or corner person. He brings passion, courage, and commitment to anti-racism while growing up in the midst of racism. Lasted a lifetime. Zellner worked as the first white field secretary of the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, usually referred to by the acronym SNCC, SNCC. 1960, in the midst of the student-led sit-ins at segregated lunch counters and freedom rides on segregated interstate buses. It served as the conduit for students to volunteer in the civil rights movement. White. He was also a Southerner from Alabama. His father and grandfather had been members of the Ku Klux Klan. His dad was a Methodist minister. Rights was fueled by his religious faith and a desire to reverse his ancestors' racism. Methodist College in Alabama, Zellner's sociology professor assigned his class a research project to find solutions to racism in the South. MH outraged school officials by taking the research project seriously and actually attending civil rights meetings at a nearby all-Black college. He developed a strong commitment to the civil rights movement. While practicing nonviolence, he was repeatedly jailed and beaten on numerous occasions. His other accomplishments include starting freedom schools in Greenwood, Mississippi. Opposed racist relatives and friends and their long-held beliefs, Southerners are often the most committed proponents of anti-racism. Zellner states, "I think that it's true that some of the most dedicated anti-racist people are Southerners. I think one of the reasons is they pay a huge price for the sentiment, and they're not going to give it up easily. The other aspect is that our Black sisters and brothers always think that we're going to be in the movement for a while and then go back to being white again. Fully committed is a way to show you are true to the cause." Back on his half century of organizing and studying race in North America, has come to believe that the underlying issue surrounding race is the caste system, like in India, which is more rigid than a class system, CLASS. It's very strong, and whenever it's challenged, people will do extraordinary things to maintain the caste, CASTE system. Because Bob Zellner is a corner person who shows that we are not defined by our past. Bob Zellner is flawed. He is human. He is brave. Bob Zellner is you. Bob Zellner is any white person. The lesson of Bob Zellner is that we can stop being racist and become anti-racist at any moment. Thus, that change and conversion are possible. In a country as rich as the United States, there are 140 million poor and low-wealth people, representing 43% of the population and 52% of our children. Estimated that 250,000 people die each year as a result of poverty and inequality. And is led by national co-chairs Bishop William J. Barber II and Dr. Liz Theoharis. Bishop Barber previously led the Moral Mondays effort in North Carolina. This diverse coalition implemented the Moral March on Washington. Their tactics include grassroots lobbying of Congress and the president, along with voter registration and an intense get out the vote effort in support of the Third Reconstruction. Now it is our time to be good corner people, following the footsteps of Bob Zellner, Robert Kennedy, and Dr. King. It turns out that you do not have to go look far for good corner people. At All Souls, my home church, there are people like Jim and Betty Scrimenti, who have been dedicated activists all of their lives. Betty was a volunteer freedom rider and lunch counter sit-in volunteer back in the 60s. We are grateful for their activism. As my boxing coach, Will, says, "Don't quit on me. Seek out opportunities to be a good boxer or corner person in the fight for justice. Justice needs you."